So now I'm asking myself the question, why in December 2017, while I was incarcerated at the Green Lane Psychiatric Facility, did a Russian mental patient called Misha tell me that Russian intelligence did not want the Roundway experiment being exposed at all? So it's interesting to consider, indeed. It would seem strange that Russian intelligence would not want a British intelligence black site being exposed. However, it seems that the Russian intelligence services operate so many black sites, not only in Russia but also here in Wiltshire, that exposing the Roundway experiment could open up a can of worms. And also there seems to be some sort of Russian intelligence interface with British intelligence surrounding the Roundway experiment. So it's interesting to consider this. Indeed, several Russian intelligence cells, i.e. Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst coordinated cells, are interfaced with Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst coordinated British intelligence cells as part of this ongoing project, which can only be described as a Nazi experiment. So it's all very interesting to consider the Roundway experiment ongoing in Devizes is a Nazi experiment indeed. Various personnel of the Roundway experiment are themselves of German extraction, so it's interesting to consider indeed. My nemesis Gunter Gottfried has a lot to do with the Roundway experiment and indeed sits on the board of overseers for the Roundway experiment, which is itself a department of the Asylum Keepers Guild, a network that was delineated to me, i.e. explained by a paranoid schizophrenic named Stephen during the same incarceration in the Green Lane Psychiatric Facility where I encountered Misha. Indeed, I encountered Misha on the grounds of the Green Lane Psychiatric Facility, and he delineated to me that he was being kept in a containment facility in the catacombs and had briefly escaped. Indeed, I always wondered what happened to Misha. It's possible that after he became surplus to requirements, he ended up on a butcher's slab in Walter Rose and Sons butcher shop. His meat was sold as pork to the residents of Devizes, and his organs were trafficked, most probably to Russia, and sold to an elite client for hundreds of millions of pounds. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, I've delineated before how the Walter Rose and Sons butcher shop organ harvesting cartel funds percentages of the MI6 black budget, and indeed a lot of these funds are put back in to the circulation that coordinates the Roundway experiment. So it's interesting to consider. Indeed, one could say that the Devizes cartel is self-sufficient when it comes to the Roundway experiment. So it's all very strange to consider indeed. These are quite nifty people, these Devizes residents. This means indeed, I had previously thought that the majority of the populace of Devizes were very stupid. However, there seems to be a certain shrewdness to their character. However, this may be due to oversight by the British intelligence community. Indeed, I don't believe that Devizes alone would be able to coordinate this kind of operation due to the low levels of education that I witnessed in the town of Devizes and the overarching stupidity of a lot of the inhabitants. So it's all very interesting to consider indeed. The Roundway psychiatric facility that now contains the Green Lane Psychiatric Hospital, the modern complex, is a black site for a Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst operation. So it's interesting to consider indeed. A lot of the personnel, interestingly, are outsourced and include German, Japanese, and Russian scientists. So it's interesting to consider that Russian scientists are guests at the Roundway experiment. So this may add fuel to the reason why Misha told me that Russian intelligence desperately did not want anyone to expose the Roundway facility because of it being a location where Russian scientists carried out experiments on the insane. So it's interesting to consider indeed the head shrink of Green Lane Dr. Peter Cohen is himself an operative of the Israeli Foreign Intelligence Service, i.e. the Mossad. So it's interesting to consider that the Roundway experiment also has Mossad connections. So Dr. Peter Cohen is chiefly a Sabbatean operative of a Mossad cell known as the Nebuchadnezzar Mafia, who we have encountered before in this video diary. Indeed, the Nebuchadnezzar Mafia have a headquarters in Tel Aviv from which they conduct their European and British operations. Indeed, they have a local headquarters in Trowbridge, interestingly, and oversee a lot of the synthetic drug distribution that is occurring at the moment in Trowbridge and is creating zombified people. So it's all very interesting to note. Indeed, I may be a paranoid schizophrenic, but I also believe that I have a degenerative brain condition caused by excessive use of synthetic drugs over the years, where my brain is literally rotting away, kind of eating itself. So it's interesting to consider, and indeed, this is not to mention the fact that I have been irradiated for 6 years, and therefore I have technically become a mutant. So a lot of the paranormal phenomena I experience is most probably due to the radiation. So it's interesting to consider that at the moment in Russia, there are a lot of people walking around very similar to me who have had enormous synthetic drug addictions and radiation poisoning. So it's interesting to consider what could occur in the next few years, especially if the Russian intelligence services decide to utilize these networks of people as schizophrenic super spies. So it's all very strange to consider. Indeed, the majority of the Russian mental patients kept in the catacombs of devices are themselves radioactive and possess paranormal phenomena. So the British intelligence services wish to tap in to this paranormal phenomena and basically utilize the psychic abilities of these Russian mental patients in a possible future World War III scenario, which interestingly would be potentially with the Russian Federation. So it's interesting to consider that the Russian intelligence services do not want this being exposed. So it says a lot about the cross-pollination of intelligence work. So it's all very strange to consider. Indeed, the Russian intelligence services and Russian spies in Wiltshire have an interest in the goings-on at the Roundway experiment for their own mind control research. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, the Paracelsus group that operate in southwestern Russia do have a certain amount of license to do so given to them by branches of the Russian government. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, also the Maniac Murder Cult have a license from the GRU, who basically target any paranoid schizophrenics that are viewed by the GRU as anti-government. So it's interesting to consider this. The Maniac Murder Cult do have a certain license to operate from the GRU, as do the Cleaners, who terrorize mental patients and homeless people. Indeed, they also have a license to operate from the GRU. So it's interesting to consider Russian military intelligence are very much coordinating a lot of the persecution of paranoid schizophrenics in the Russian Federation, which says a lot about the nature of the GRU and its ultimate connections to the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, which as a Nazi intelligence service is very much against the paranoid schizophrenic mind and being. So it's all very interesting to note. Indeed, this really is a cosmic conflict occurring at the moment. A cosmic conflict between paranoid schizophrenic struggling for survival in the modern age against a wealth of cryptocracies aligned against them. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, as I have previously stated, The Southport stabber, his name I forget, was a mind-controlled assassin, i.e. a Manchurian candidate, trained by the British intelligence services, i.e. MI6, to cause a situation that would create friction in the community. So it's interesting to consider, indeed, this Southport stabber was groomed from a young age by the British intelligence services for this very purpose. And indeed, you can see in his eyes that he has been mind controlled. So it's all very interesting to consider. He has that vacant stare, as if he has undergone rather a lot of electroshock treatment. And indeed, as a mental patient, I have myself undergone electroshock treatment and witnessed the effects of electroshock treatment on various mental patients. And indeed, I can confirm that the Southport stabber was subject to large degrees of electroshock before and after his operation and arrest. So it's very interesting to consider the fact that many Manchurian candidates are themselves psychiatric patients. So if we look at the case of a West Country schizophrenic, I forget his name again, who murdered 3 pensioners, it's possible that 1, he did not even commit these murders, and 2, if he did, he had undergone some kind of behavior modification experiment provided by the British Secret Intelligence Service, i.e. MI6, and indeed, over the course of this video diary, I've explained the fact that the MI6 British Secret Intelligence Services were utilizing Grenville Lodge and the catacombs at Grenville Lodge as a location, i.e. a black site, to program and basically train paranoid schizophrenics to become super spies for the British intelligence services. And indeed, Russia and Russian intelligence were observing Grenville Lodge and utilizing the mind control techniques in their own experimentation in such places as the mental hospital I was located in the Russian Federation, psychiatric facility number 74 on the outskirts of Voronezh, which from all outside seems like a factory, when it is actually a secret psychiatric testing facility. So it's interesting to consider that even if I wasn't at Grenville Lodge, I was certainly at psychiatric facility number 74. It is ultimately very possible that I was located in both places at different times. So it's very interesting to consider the amnesiac barriers that have been placed in my brain to stop me from getting to the truth about the British intelligence services mind control programming and the Russian intelligence services mind control programming. Indeed, at such black sites as Grenville Lodge number 1787, there are always networks of Russian intelligence observers who report back to Moscow on the operations of the mind control programming in these locations and facilities. And indeed, this is the same situation as the Roundway experiment. There are Russian intelligence observers present at various stages of the mind control process who take notes and report their findings back to Moscow. So it's interesting, this is cross-pollination of ideas concerning the mind control programming, and it's a sad state of affairs that the majority of mind control programming is inflicted on the paranoid schizophrenic population, as it always has been, especially in Britain since 1874, when the Society for Psychical Research operatives, who were themselves British intelligence agents, set up the proto-Mindgate program in the psychiatric facilities known at the time as asylums across the United Kingdom, involving electroshock therapy and narco-hypnosis, lobotomies, and various other techniques to attempt to control the mind of the individual via the utilization of paranoid schizophrenic experimental test subjects. So this is an ongoing scenario an ongoing saga, and I don't think that this scenario is going to end anytime soon. Indeed, it is all making sense now why Misha stated to me that the Russian intelligence services did not want the Roundway experiment being exposed because of the fact that there are Russian observers there learning mind control techniques from the British intelligence services and their Nazi handlers to utilize in their own experimentation. And of course, because of the fact that various Russian scientists guessed as programmers in this program. Indeed, it's always interesting to consider that as we are supposedly on a knife's edge of a conflict between the United Kingdom and the Russian Federation, the fact that in the secret world of the clandestine services, there is much cross-pollination of thoughts and ideas to do with the mind control programming of the individual, utilizing paranoid schizophrenics as experimental mind control test subjects. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, this would make sense as to why I seem to be of such interest to the cryptocratic elements of the British intelligence services and the Russian intelligence services. It's because I am a test subject of a dual program, i.e., the Mindgate programs, Project Aniseed, and Project Sturms, Project Yuri. So I am basically a monitored test subject. Indeed, I am a targeted individual also due to the fact that I am undergoing irradiation and voice to skull techniques, as well as experiencing gang stalking. Indeed, I've experienced a fair bit of gang stalking down here in my current location. Indeed, I believe a lot of this may be being coordinated by defense intelligence at the military base. Of course, these people are recruited through the local Freemasonic lodges and networks of police confidential informants. So it's all very interesting to consider the British intelligence cryptocracy has a large network of people that it can rely upon. Indeed, as I've stated before, the vast majority of British intelligence handlers of operations are themselves high-ranking initiates of Royal Arch Freemasonry. So it's interesting how all of this interconnects. Indeed, the GRU have their own secret societies, such as Leadstorm. And indeed, these GRU secret societies are modelled, in many respects, on traditional Freemason lodges, though have elements of Russian mysticism within their initiation ceremonies, so they are slightly different. Indeed, it is these GRU lodges that are carrying out a hybrid war against the paranoid schizophrenic population of the United Kingdom. So it's interesting to consider. Indeed, these GRU Leadstorm lodges are inflicting voice to skull technology on British paranoid schizophrenics in an attempt to drive them as crazy as possible, to create a situation whereby Nazi Tiergartenstrasse 4 T4 doctors can basically shut down the operations of paranoid schizophrenics who are attempting to expose black sites of both British intelligence and Russian intelligence origins. So it's all very interesting to consider. This is a strange situation whereby the GRU Leadstorm lodges are attempting to conduct a hybrid war against paranoid schizophrenics in the United Kingdom, which explains a lot about why Russian intelligence do not want the Roundway experiment being exposed. Indeed, the words of Misha, "It's a dark story," do seem to be very much coming to fruition. Indeed, the modern world is not a good place to be a paranoid schizophrenic, whether in Britain or in Russia, as there's always a possibility of being kidnapped, experimented on, tested, abused, raped, and generally used in some sort of manner by the intelligence services via hypno-programming and other mechanisms. So it's all a very strange situation. And very interesting for the paranoid schizophrenic to analyze all of this. However, it's all causing rather a lot of disturbance for my brain, especially at certain times of day. Indeed, between the hours of 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. I am a mess, just playing with my beard and talking to myself and laughing to myself. Indeed. As I stated before, I do believe I have a degenerative brain condition caused by synthetic drug abuse on top of my schizophrenia. It's interesting to consider that my brain is literally eating itself, so I am in a degenerative cumulative phase, so it's all very interesting to consider indeed. I'm going to leave it there now. Thank you.